trees have no shadows. This shot appears to be going for a painterly look, which is fine, but it doesn't match the art style of the rest of the video at all. This grass looks like it was painted with a fur texture brush. It looks nice in this shot, but will cause problems once our main characters start running through the grass. This video has some terrible character designs. This bird might be the worst of them all. He's like a cross between Scrat from Ice Age and the baby chicks from the Pixar short For the Birds. We'll also take this time to collectively sin the other awful models whose individual sins we left out for being too repetitive, including a butterfly, a peach tree, a flying squirrel, a red squirrel, a chinchilla, and of course, Big Buck Bunny himself. If you're gonna make an anatomically impossible cartoonish redesign of an animal, it needs to both be visually appealing and make it seem as if the animal won't be in immense physical pain when moving. The bird's wings are a perfect example. There's no room for any ventral musculature that would allow the bird to fly, and the wings look like they were glued to the bird's flank. Okay. Let's talk about frame rate. This video was originally released in 2008 and is basically a glorified tech demo for Blender's potential as a toolset for full-length 3D animation. The version we're sinning is a re-render created by renderfarming.net in 2013 at 4K resolution and running at 60 frames per second. This wouldn't be a problem if, say, the video focused on showing off textures with gorgeous establishing shots and highly detailed models. However, Big Buck Bunny is trying to tell a story, without dialogue, entirely through its animation, and the old rigs from 2008 weren't designed to be seen at 60 FPS. The backgrounds look cheap, the characters' animations lack convincing movement, and some shots with baked-in motion blur designed for a lower frame rate look especially bad. This is a sin just for the re-rendered version. When Bunny comes out of his rabbit hole, his pose in the medium shot matches the continuity of the 2008 version, but doesn't line up with the new animation from the 2013 version. It's sad that the Blender Foundation had 9 crew members working on character animation, and our crack team of 2 writers watching this video once were able to spot that Bunny's hand clipped straight through his head. The material on these leaves causes them to turn completely white and glow when they're angled towards the sun. Leaves wouldn't do this since light would be partially passing through them. As Bunny exhales, the false connections of the flower undulate, and on another flower, we see the petals are actually connected to the green squares, and not the stem model. Part of the reason why Buck's model looks so bad is due to the shading on his eyes. The red and gray shading around the whites of his eyes were probably used to make his eyes look more expressive, but it looks terrifying. This effect is actually made worse in the re-render, as the harsher lighting on Bunny's face makes the shading on his eyes stand out even more. The sparkles coming from this butterfly are just spinning transparent textures. This is commonly done in games so that the game can run smoother, but this is an animation, where you can bake simulations. The butterfly is extremely overexposed. It's probably overcompensation for a bloom effect that's missing from the 2013 version. The butterfly casts a shadow on Bunny, as if there's a light source coming from the right side of the screen. The butterfly's wings jitter as it lands on the flower. The apple's animation as it rolls across to Bunny looks very awkward. The shading over Buck's eyes disappears as he blinks, which looks very unnatural. The apple core here glitches for a couple of frames. It moves out of its movement arc, disappears for a frame, clips through Bunny's hand for another frame, then continues as normal. Interestingly, this glitch only occurs in the 2013 version. Changing the butterfly's flying arc to be more exaggerated and cartoony is okay for the sake of artistic license, but when it starts hovering in the air like a hummingbird, that's pretty ridiculous. A lighting glitch causes a false lens flare to show up for a single frame. This appears to be an issue with the lighting engine used in the newer version of Blender, as it isn't in the 2008 version. These textures are incredibly low res, and it's even more obvious when the squirrel is standing on them. Frank the flying squirrel looks like he's floating up this tree rather than climbing it. Buck's foot phases right through the grass. Let's send the rest of the clipping in this video, and because this comes from the Blender Foundation working with their own proprietary software, it gets an extra 2 sins. Also, this incredibly snappy animation. He moves like a robot more than a bunny, if you can even call this a bunny in the first place. Gamera the chinchilla is pulling a seemingly unlimited amount of acorns out of thin air. But that's not the problem. This video is working on cartoon logic after all. What's really strange is that Gamera's arms don't have proper arcs, so they jump and fidget each time they reach to grab another nut. This is a good example of why this video loses something in higher resolution. Bunny's face rig stretches in what are clearly meant to imitate smear frames, which is helped with the motion blur in the 2008 version. By doubling the frame rate, it just looks like the animators are torturing the poor guy. These two shots are completely butchered in the 2013 version. This fake-looking dolly zoom is made even worse in higher resolution, as the background looks flat in 2D, while the shot of Frank killing the butterfly, already an epileptic's nightmare, is turned up to 11 with the increased frame rate. When Rinky the red squirrel starts to run up the tree, his animation is a bit too smooth, like he's running on an invisible ramp. And Rinky broke his back. I would feel sorry for him, but given that he cheered on Frank when he crushed that butterfly earlier, I'm inclined to watch him suffer. Aside from the ending, this is the only time the fourth wall is broken in this short, and it feels very out of place. Alternatively, if this wasn't meant to be a fourth wall break, then it's really bad shot composition, because Bunny sure looks like he's staring at the camera. Also,
never stare at me like this ever again.
When Buck grabs this vine, the lower half disappears for a frame. It's an animation glitch that, you guessed it, doesn't appear in the original version. I don't understand why the animators chose not to add any sound effects during this montage, and just went with a soundtrack. It takes all the energy out of this scene. Big Z would be ashamed of Bunny's whittling technique.
What are you doing? Look, if you're gonna do it, you do it right.
Lighting randomly changes in the background for no narrative reason. Okay, it's time to send all the unnecessary squash and stretch in this animation. It makes me uncomfortable. Bunny freezes in place after dropping the leaves, and then the entire scene freezes for almost half a second. There's no smudging or any other residue on Bunny's paws after he applies the eye black. The grass deforms in groups of blades instead of individually, and it looks super off. Frank the flying squirrel snaps into a different position at the start of this shot. The vine starts to break before the arrowhead pierces it. This wasn't an issue in the 2008 version, where at 30 frames per second, there was motion blur 1 frame before the impact to emphasize the strike. Even for the sake of a joke, Rinky's reaction is way too slow to be plausible. Gamera should not have survived this. And no, we don't mean in the, oh, that's not realistic, ding, sense. The rock trap clipped through the fur of his tail, and partly through his back. Even if it missed the bones in his tail, his fur should still be trapped. When the apple falls into Gamera's hands, it jumps forward, then spins around for 2 frames. These leaves have static animation that look far better at a lower frame rate. One of the blades of grass experiences a lighting glitch that causes it to flicker. The white dot on the flying squirrel's eye gets brighter as the shot fades. One of the scriptwriters decided to look into the 2 websites mentioned at the end of the animation. It seems the original storyboards and concept art had far better designs for these characters. She hated the final design so much that she decided to reimagine the characters as palatable designs. You can thank her later. In conclusion, this video, despite being a glorified tech demo for Blender, isn't that bad. If you can get past the off-putting character designs, it's somewhat enjoyable, and does its job as demonstrating as a commercial for Blender when simulating wind, light, fur, and dynamic particles. It also gets pretty creative with the plot in the second half, especially with Bunny's traps. Though if you do watch it, I would recommend sticking with the original version from 2008, as it has fewer animation errors, and the lower frame rate makes for a more watchable experience.
You judge me! No, you don't! That's no ordinary rabbit. That's the most foul, cruel, and bad-tempered rodent you ever set eyes on.
You